label and playing Dungannon setup for this. So the plan is, this is week one. We want to be thinking about the Omoplata as a position, not just a submission. Okay, so we're going to build on entries. We're going to look at all the things that the person's going to try and do to stop the Omoplata, and we'll try to build a game around that. And then we'll do some crazy Omoplatas out of nowhere, not necessarily just to blow your brains out. Because Cara thinks this necessarily is going to be boring. So let's take a look at, because we've played the close guard game, how could I set up the Omoplata from close guard? Slightly different from how Donagher's approach was. Again, this is my system, this is Bradley Hill's system, and his nickname is the Omoplata Man, so he knows a lot about this position. So, from here I get double sleeve control. Hard to set an Omoplata up from close guard. Why? Because Cara has his elbows tucked in his body. For me to get an Omoplata, I need open elbows. So, once I make grips, I can open my guard. I can use the connection of my legs on his hips to shrimp out and bring my knees inside. My feet are on his hips and my shins are driving into his biceps. Now to set up the Omoplata, I can pick a side. So I want to cut Carl in half by physically lifting my butt, turning myself onto my right hip. Okay? And now from this position, this is called the pull punch setup. I'm going to pull on Carl's right sleeve with my left hand and put it in my hip. Just putting a lot of tension on Carl's right arm. And then I just kick this leg through. Now watch what happens to Carl's head when I do. It drops. I place the foot on the hip and I put pressure with my knee on the shoulder and I start putting arm bar pressure. Now if the arm is straight, Carl's already going to turn it, and the minute he turns it, that's when I punch it. I still have sleeve control from here, and now my goal is to try and get this shoulder as close to the mat as I can. So I physically lift the leg and I just swap this down over the mat. From sleeve control, I find the elbow, and now it's all about freeing my bottom leg, which is a little bit easier because in Donagher's setup, Cara had a free hand there. I still have sleeve control from there, so I just extend this and pull this leg out. Now it's the battle of coming up, so I keep elbow control. I let go and come up with an elbow. Now Carl's obvious reactions, he's going to try and start to posture and do all that stuff. So my goal from here is once I get my head higher from there, from his, I just cross my ankles and sit forward. Just this detail of keeping my head in front of my hips. Okay, if that makes sense. If I'm here with my head in line with my hips, Carl's just going to posture and bolster. Think about even trying to touch your toes, posture and outgrow. Once my head is in front of my hips is a big detail. Okay, so once I have elbow control, all I'm going to do is I curl my legs back, but see if I'm sitting on my butt, I'll put my hand on the mat and put my butt scoop slightly onto my hip. Then I curl my feet back. From there I'll switch grips. And when I curl my foot up, as we talked about, I want to put tension in Carl's arm. Okay, as you know, Carl's a freak, and if I just try to finish the Omoplata how it's normally taught from S-mount and cut an angle, look how far I have to physically go to get this Omoplata. That's not normal, is it? Huh? No. It's a lot of movement there, isn't it? So think about when I pull this up and I physically pull my leg back, the first movement I'm trying to do is I curl my heel underneath Carl's tricep. I lift the elbow up and I make a connection with my thigh underneath his elbow. And I move from the edge of my foot to the ball of my foot. And now I put a lot of tension in that arm. I'm not going that way, right? I'm just going forward. But the friction of Carl's wrist on the game restricts that. So the detail is, I lift my hip up. And now, very little move there, isn't it? Compared to holy shit, I haven't got it. Right, so I have tension in that arm. That's all I want there. Around on the ball of my foot. And now from there, I lift my hip. See the way Carl's fist is off his back? And now it's just movement forward. Remember we were talking earlier when we were playing the close guard? If I can put tension in a limb, it's a lot easier to submit it. So let's look at that setup again. Also, I like this setup because it's easy to extract the bottom leg because I have sleeve control. So from here, I make grips from close guard, I'm opening my guard, I shrimp onto my side, I bring my knees to the inside, so my butt's on the mat, feet on his hips, and then I pick a side. So I lift my hip and physically cut Carl in two by putting my right hip on the mat. Now, this punch-pull setup. I pull Carl's wrist to my left pocket. That puts tension in the arm. So the minute I straighten my leg, his head comes forward, foot comes on the hip, and then I use that to create that angle. Then I'm punching to get that bend in the arm. The minute I do that, now it's all about breaking his posture. There's no way I'm going to get it with his shoulder off the mat. So I physically just open this leg and kick it to the mat. And because I still have this sleeve control, it's hard for Carl to hang on to this leg. But even if he sort of makes grips, to extract it, I just push this across, and then I extend my leg. Now it's all about building a base. Get my head higher than his. That sleeve grip finds anything under his armpit. Gi, armpit hair, rash guard, anything. And now I just extend my legs forward and I'm keeping control of this elbow. I can cross my ankles if I want to, and that detail of keeping my head in front of my hips. Now I'm going to extract my back leg and my bottom leg. When I pull this up, my calf comes physically underneath Carl's tricep, and I go on the ball of my foot. I'm putting tension in that arm. Now from there, I'm on the edge of the foot. I bring this one up, and instead of connecting it to my heel, which is how it's traditionally taught, I bring my thigh underneath his tricep. There's a lot of tension there, and notice I'm on the balls of my feet. Last detail is I want his fist off his back, so I lift my hips and my head comes forward. There's a lot of tension in that arm. This is the invisible jiu-jitsu. You can't see it, but Carl can feel it. So again, one more time. We'll be using that finish the whole way through the mesocycle. So don't worry if you suck at it tonight, there's a lot of details in it. By week 12 you will have that without even thinking. So I have sleeve control, I open my legs, I shrimp out onto my side. You can do that with legs connected to the hips, feet on the mat. And now I'm into open guard control. Carl still with his knees. I put my hip on the mat to cut him in two, pull this into my hip, extend this leg and watch his head. When I pull, he falls into the space, foot goes in the hip, and then I use my knee to get that little bit of an angle. I let go of the sleeve, find the elbow, kick this over, extract the bottom leg, build the base onto my elbow, head in front of hips. Switch my grips, find something on the far side, okay? Curl my legs back, but I'm on the edges of my feet. I want to come onto the balls of my feet. So I lift my hip and I physically bring this foot back and come on the ball of my foot. There's a lot of tension in Carl's arm here, okay? Then this foot comes underneath. Sometimes I'll walk back. We'll go into this later in the mesocycle. It's called a reverse reverse. I walk back in reverse, and I've made that connection. So now, last detail, I lift my hip. So the way now there's daylight between the back of his hand and the gi, and I just come. Okay, let's play with that.